So as we approach the end of 2024, there's a lot of beginnings and a lot of endings. We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of the Geek Watch Podcast.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 237 of the Geek Watch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's very own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
I want to start out with my second trip to watch Wicked.
Aha!
I went with my sister and my niece.
Okay, so this was still not a sing-along.
Not yet, which I believe they're going to start doing that next week. My niece is very much a fan of the musical. She hasn't ever seen it, but she does sing with choir in her school. She has heard the soundtrack, but she didn't know the story. And my sister wasn't that familiar with, she's not a big musical theater type person. So she didn't even realize this was only half of the entire show. And I was telling her that, and you're like, it's 2 and what? And it's just the first half? What is like, how do you watch that in the theaters? You have to understand, it's like, if you see it on stage, it's not this long.
Right.
Which is, yeah. So she was going into it with a little bit of trepidation. Her daughter wants to see it, okay, fine, and she'll hang out with me. What the heck, we'll do that. Now, afterwards, I'll say this. I don't know what my sister would say her condition was at the end, but if she said she didn't cry at all during this movie, I'm going to back her up because she's my sister and I love her. And whatever she says, whatever her story is, I'm sticking to it.
Right.
Okay. My niece, however, was a sobbing, wrecked mess by the end, and she doesn't care who knows. So I'm going to say it. Okay. Yep. The lights came up and mascara had run, obviously.
Right into her popcorn.
Yeah. So I had to hold her for a little
Poor
bit.
girl, yes.
So, and that's only the first half of it.
Yeah.
I will say there was one time I had to look over to Maddie because there was a scene. I knew that, again, she doesn't know the story, but I know she listens to the soundtrack and she knows some behind the scenes stuff for Wicked. And there was a particular scene that I had to look over and she was like nudging my sister or her mom going, oh my God, look at this. And my sister had no idea what this meant. Realized this had to have been a big deal. And it was a big deal because it was, for me, when I first saw this particular scene, and again, not wanting to go into any spoilers, when I saw that scene, I'm like, when Mandy sees that, she's really going to appreciate it. So
Yes.
It's that scene.
Excellent.
It's that scene. So my niece was very happy to have seen it. And so I didn't get a chance to see it in IMAX because, of course, Moana 2 rolled around and took over all
the screens. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have seen YouTube clips of people almost shadow casting Rocky Horror style, people dressing up and getting in front of the screen. And I foresee that happening to Wicked in future showings, that this could be our next Midnight Madness movie.
Oh, very possible. And John Chu, the director, one of the things that he talked about was he filmed both movies at the same time because he wanted to watch them back to back. He wanted to make sure that the flow was exactly where it needed to be because he realized eventually people are going to be watching this back to back. They're going to watch the first part of it and then they're going to watch the second part of it, have a bathroom break. They'll have their 10,
Very
15
Rogers and Hammerstein.
And do that. And he wanted
play a long intermission.
Yeah, and he wanted to make sure that it flowed really well. So he said at this point, he's the only person on the planet who's actually seen it all the way through from part 1 and part 2, which they have made an announcement. Part 2 is going to be known as Wicked for Good.
Yes.
Which anybody who's actually seen the musical on stage knows, okay, so you're just basically threatening everybody with an ugly cry is what you're doing.
Yeah, because that is the finale song, isn't it?
It is the finale song, and also it is a tattoo that Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo share. They have both the same tattoo that says "For Good."
Oh,
that's the thing. A lot of people were, man, why are they crying so much? I said, you don't understand. They've already filmed this whole thing. They know where this is going. Ariana Grande definitely knew where this was going because it's one of her favorite musicals.
Right.
So if you know about this song, then you know.
I
So
can remember many a year ago in A Kingdom by the Sea, it wasn't Kristen Chenoweth, it was whoever came after Kristen Chenoweth, but it was her and Adina Menzel on The View. They guest starred and they sang For Good. They were in their costumes, and the rest of the View ladies were dressed as Glinda, the Wicked Witch, and Joy Behar. That they ran out of witches from The Wizard of Oz, so Joy Behar was dressed as Endora. I could remember that like it was yesterday, and it was 20 years ago or so. And they sang For Good on that TV show.
oh yeah. Well, that song, not wanting to go into any spoilers for people who don't know, but this will be your time to do your ugly cry. It's coming. So I will say that although Wicked has been doing really well, Moana 2 has been doing blockbuster numbers. Not everything that has come out recently has done so well. Kraven the Hunter?
No.
No. The discussion was, well, we don't think it's going to do that well. It may do 25 million. And then as we got even closer to time, they're like, oh, it doesn't look like it's going to do really well at all, because several theaters thought to themselves, okay, so we've got Wicked, we've got Moana 2, and you want us to knock one or both of those out of a theater so that we can play Kraven. No. So Kraven didn't play to all the screens that they thought they were going to play, because...
So you're saying 2 musicals kicked a superhero movie out of the theaters.
Yeah.
The times they are a-changing.
Yeah. Well, they could see that they're still getting crowds for these movies. They weren't going to knock a screen for any of them out. For Kraven. So yeah.
Meanwhile, Red 1 is still in theaters, but it's also in streaming. I watched Red 1 on streaming yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, maybe. I know I watched it this week.
Yeah.
Why did they kick that out?
I think for some theaters that they didn't have a Red 1 to kick out. Because it's not playing in a bunch of theaters, obviously. But yeah, theaters were like, there's no way we're getting rid of Moana 2 or Wicked to play this. So when that news broke, they were like, okay, maybe not 25, maybe 15. Now the numbers are out and it's 11. So of all of the Sony Spider-Verse without Spider-Man movies, of course, it had the weakest opening of any of them.
Wow. How did it beat Morbius?
Morbius did better. Morbius did better than Madam Web.
I forgot about Madam Web.
Yeah. And then on top of that, not only did it have the lowest opening of any of the Sony movies, it had the lowest opening of any of the modern Marvel/DC movies.
Huh.
So it's at the bottom of the barrel all the way across. I haven't seen it. By the way, it is your fault because...
Why not just wait?
Yeah. Exactly.
Why not wait?
It'll probably be out in a week.
Hey, yeah, just like Red 1. Give it a week. It'll be in.
Yeah. The main rumor is basically Sony has said that's it. We've had our third Venom movie, and that's going to be the end for the Venom movies. We're not going to do any more of the Sony Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man movies anymore. This is it. We're done. Yeah. We're not going to do Sinister Six or...
Just go back in with, just give it back to the mouse. We've had split custody for a while. It's not working out.
Well,
school year with your mom, just go home.
Here's the thing, though. Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man, the Venom movies did okay. Yeah, they've had issues with the Spider-Man without Spider-Man movies for the most part, but the Spider-Man movies with Spider-Man, not so bad. Maybe hold on to it, but do more Spider-Man movies with Spider-Man in it. So maybe.
Give us some more Miles. Give us some...
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too.
Give us a good Gwen spinoff.
We were supposed to have... If you recall, the new Spider-Verse movie, we were supposed to get the beginning of this year. And they've just now announced directors. That's it. There may be a script, but we haven't heard of any. None of the voice actors have been asked to come and do anything. It may be 2026 before we see the third Spider-Verse movie. So that's troubling. Has Sony lost their mojo when it comes to making Spider-Man movies? Maybe. I mean, obviously, the Spider-Verse movies are very labor-intensive because of the animation. But I would have thought, with this being like a two-parter, with the second and the third movie being like a part 1 and part 2 of a story, a lot of that would have already been worked out already. But apparently not. And with Craven delayed so many times, which now we can see why, because they were trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And I guess after a while, they just gave up on it. This doesn't look good for our Spider-Verse movie, although there's been some talk, too, about this idea of maybe selling Spider-Man back to Marvel, or at least the movie rights. Obviously, they're not giving up the video game rights because they make tons of money off those PlayStation Spider-Man video games. Yeah, I don't see them giving that up anytime soon. And with everything else, they need to hold on to some stuff. But Hollywood's been in a weird... We've been talking about this for a while. When you look back this year as far as successful movies, we've all been saying, hey, movie theaters need to start bringing out some new stuff, bringing out some original IPs. But then you look at the top 10 grossing movies of this year, they're all sequels.
Yeah.
All of them. Maybe we're not as smart as we think we are, maybe. Although, at the same time, I'm looking at toward the end of the year, we've got Nosferatu coming. And in a sense, it's a remake, but I've been hearing some great stuff about it, and that's going to be a Christmas present I can't wait to unwrap. I've been really enjoying Creature Commandos.
Love Creature Commandos. Oh my goodness, that came out of nowhere. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. I've been...
What a cast. What a story.
It surprised me a bit because, well, I know James Gunn, but it is animated, so I wasn't expecting TVMA. Obviously, if you've seen Peacemaker, you know what you could wind up getting, but I wasn't expecting cartoon nudity at all.
Cartoon necrophilia, cartoon, just all of it. It's good TV. Good TV.
But I will say that I do agree with the philosophy, with Gunn's idea about what he wants to do with these movies, which is he doesn't want to just make like an R-rated version of everything. The movies that need that for the story, if it's for the story, then yes. If it's a story that winds up with an R rating or a mature rating, fine, if the story demands it. But for something like Superman, we're going PG-13 because it's Superman.
Kids need to see this.
Yeah. Which, while we're on the subject, oh my God, the trailer.
Yes. We got a teaser for the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
That's annoying. When I saw that, they're like, here's the teaser for Superman. And then it said, no, the teaser's coming out tomorrow. I was so mad, Brian. I was so mad.
But the fact that we did get hints of the John Williams score, played an electric guitar, and also we get to see a bunch of other heroes. You know, we get Mr. Terrific, we get
Girl, we get Green Lantern.
Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, played by Nathan Fillion. So.
Yes. And we've got him in the cartoons before, but seeing him in live, that's going to be...
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So they're ready to really hit things this coming year because it's going to be it's 2025, isn't it? I think it's July 2025.
It just said July 11th. It didn't give a year. Wouldn't that be a cruel trick?
To make us wait a year.
Yeah,
because
week 6.
Because when you look at the rest of what they're planning on doing... There's a lot of deep cuts in there. Creature Commandos, obviously, is where they're starting everything out, is with Creature Commandos, which was weird. But then you see what they're doing. It's like, oh, this is a lot of fun.
It's great.
And one of the things they talked about with Creature Commandos is that the actors who are voicing them will be the actors who play in live action.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing.
If you see pictures of the voice actors, you're like, okay.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Well, Frank Grillo, who voices Flag Sr., he's going to be in Peacemaker Season 2.
Okay. Oh, that's
going after.
So is Gunn going to be the Weasel?
Well,
yes.
I mean,
we're going to force him to.
He did play the Weasel when The Suicide Squad.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. I keep forgetting about the Suicide Squad. There was a good Suicide Squad movie.
Oh, yeah.
Project Starfish. That's right.
Oh,
okay.
yes.
That's right. Okay. Oh. So then we get David Harbour as Frankenstein's monster. Wow.
Yes. If they do Frankenstein's monster. Yes.
And that was so clever that they told a centuries-long love-hate story in a fight sequence that was brilliant. I love that whole sequence.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing, though, now that Scooby-Doo and Shaggy are now considered DC canon? Because they show up as a creature,
Surprise.
That's going to be an awful lot of fun.
Yeah.
At the same time, Marvel isn't sleeping either because we're going to be getting What If in a week. this Sunday.
It's our last What If.
There's going to be like a bunch of just neat stuff and a lot of deep cuts, and we are getting Agatha. It's a bit of a spoiler to say what the title of the show is that she's going to be in, but I'm going to say it.
Okay.
What if Agatha went to Hollywood?
Ooh. Yes, she could do anything. She could make herself appear as anything. She could be an actor. She could be a writer. She could do anything.
I'm really looking forward to a lot of these what ifs.
Yes.
There's a lot of just really interesting stuff, and I love the fact they're bringing in Storm, and I love the fact they're bringing in the voice actor from X-Men, and of course X-Men 97.
Yay.
And of course we're eventually going to get our Fantastic Four movie, and we might someday maybe get a Blade movie. Maybe. At the same time, Hollywood's scrambling. They are canceling projects left and right. There's so many things that they've said they wanted to do that they're just, they're with the new year, we can hope that maybe Hollywood can do some kind of a reset, because they've been second guessing themselves forever. And it has been, to my mind, if you look at Hollywood and the movies that they released in 2024, there have been swings for the fences. They've either hit grand slam home runs or they have tanked.
Yeah.
Absolutely tanked. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been a whole lot of just middle of the road movies. It's either they've been incredible or they've been unbelievably bad. It's crazy just how far the pendulum has swung. So for me, it's going to be interesting to see how things develop in the coming year. But the year's not quite over yet. We still got a couple of weeks, and we get What If, we get Nosferatu, we get the Doctor Who Christmas special, and a bunch of promises for next year, like the Superman movie, perhaps. And we're hearing from Davies that the next season of Doctor Who is going to be out sooner than we expect.
Awesome.
So we may be getting that.
We got a couple of Stephen King things coming out.
Yeah.
The Long Walk, and there were a couple others, but one of them I was surprised about is they are doing in Autopsy Room 4 again. They've made it a couple times. They made it into a movie. It was in Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
Right.
And because it was inspired by an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and it's almost like the autopsy of Jane Doe. I was surprised that it was getting revisited. So that's going to be, and whoever decides to take that up, it's going to be an interesting take.
Yeah, and there's word that Agatha All Along Season 2, that Agatha All Along did so well, they're going to bring it back.
Absolutely, they have to.
They're going to have to run it back. Yes. So there's definitely a lot of promise in the air. And off the subject, but might as well announce it now, you and I are going to be doing a second podcast starting next year.
Yes, we are.
So the name of the podcast will be the Third Degree Podcast, and we're going to talk more about that toward the beginning of next year. We'll start recording, and you'll be able to find it where you can find quality podcast everywhere, and we'll certainly talk more about that on the podcast. And I'll be posting links where we post for this podcast when there's a link to be had, but it's going to be more of a casual thing, but there'll be some other stuff we'll be definitely talking about. Some of the conversations that we've had warming up before we've recorded the Geek Watch podcast. And
all your non-geek friends.
Yeah, there you go. Or, tell your geek friends, because there may be some geeky stuff involved in that as well. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll give me a chance to talk to you more than we do already, which I'm definitely looking forward to. But with this coming year, with all the geeky stuff that's going to be happening, with the Geek Watch podcast, with the Third Degree podcast, and everything else, it's going to be a surprising year, but I guess we'll see.
We shall see.
And with that said, we come to the end of episode 237. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours, and have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.